everyone and welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name's Hannah. This is my crested gecko Fred. He is a Harlequin morph. He's very cute. He's about 4.5 years old, maybe a little bit younger. I've had him for 4 years. I got him as a juvenile. He's very cute. He has been rudely woken up to participate in this video, but I wanted to talk to you about crested geckos. These are one of my favourite kinds of reptiles. I would love to own snakes, and that is something that I'm really excited about because hopefully in the next year or so I will get my first snake. But I'm a lizard fan. I love lizards. For those of you who haven't seen Gary, my bearded dragon, I'll link a video up here for you so you can go and see him. This little guy, however, was what started it all for me. He was my very first reptile. They are very easy creatures to look after, but yeah, he is my first baby. He is adorable. As you can see, like, there are kind of themes with names I really like because they're just so beautiful. I really think it's kind of funny to name your animals like proper human names, things that maybe would be considered like uncool here in the UK. So Fred, Gary, no offense to you guys if any of you were called those, but they're not kind of names here that you hear for people very often anymore. And so I kind of like those names because I think like proper people names or like old people names for cute little animals like these guys, it's just cute and funny. So I just thought that as these were kind of touted as really good beginner reptiles, and I absolutely do agree that they can be fabulous beginner reptiles. As I said, he was indeed my first one. I thought that it might be worth talking to you about a few things that you probably need to consider before you think that this is a good idea. So these are things that I kind of hadn't really thought about before I got him, and it's something that maybe you won't quite register before you bring yours home if you haven't done your research properly. I did the wrong thing in that I actually saw that you could get these in the pet shop. I don't suggest buying any reptiles really from big corporations. Like, we have loads here like Pets at Home, things like that, or I believe you have them in the US like Petco, stuff like that. Try and find a specialist shop that specialises in reptiles where they really know their stuff and they can give you some sound advice from experience as well. And try, you know, if you're looking for particular morphs and things, then I would try and find someone that is a reputable breeder and not one of these kind of big suppliers to big chain pet stores. I'm really fortunate that I was an adult when I got him already. I was 22, I'm now 26. So we've had a long time to kind of get used to each other, and I know exactly what I'm doing now, and I'm actually looking to upgrade him to a bioactive enclosure. So if you guys would like to see that, then give this video a thumbs up or let me know down below. But before I had him, I didn't realise how much I wouldn't see him. So the first thing that I want to kind of inform you guys of is that these guys are nocturnal. They are not diurnal, so they do not come out during the day. They tend to be asleep. So unless you're looking for them and you are wanting to find them, wake them up like I've done to Fred today, sorry buddy, you are not really going to see them very often unless it's kind of after dark. And for some people that is all part of the joy of having a pet like this, is that you're going to see them all the time. They're going to want to play with you, you know, you want them to be a bit more interactive, and that, you know, you can kind of show your friends them easily. But these guys are very secretive. I often hear like newbies to owning these guys say that they're really worried about their gecko because they hardly ever see them, or they don't know if they're shedding because they don't see them shed, or in fact they're not even sure if they're eating because you don't see them eating. These are all kind of worrying common problems with new crested gecko owners, because as you kind of buy these as a beginner pet and they are really easy to handle, people kind of don't realise that they're nocturnal and that they're secretive and that you're not going to see them very often unless, like me today, you're taking them out. So that's something to consider. If this is a pet that you want to be like a bearded dragon where it like wants to be let out, maybe at glass surfaces, you know, it enjoys spending time, it will sit still on your lap or fall asleep in your jumper with you or watch TV, these are not it. Although, as you can see, he kind of wanders around, he's very calm, he does kind of tolerate handling really well, as most geckos do. Obviously there are always exceptions to the rule, but these guys are very gentle, they're very calm. He has only bitten me once, and that was in the first 4 weeks of having him home, and that was my fault. I grabbed him too quickly, I wasn't gentle enough, and it wasn't a very unpleasant experience for him. And frankly, if I had not seen him do it, I would not have known it was so gentle. These guys are really wonderful, gentle little creatures, and they do make excellent first reptiles because of the ease of their care. They don't really require any kind of lighting. That is a debate amongst some, but I don't feel they require lighting at all, unless you've got plants in there, in which case you might need some lighting for the plants. And they don't require any kind of extreme heat, especially if you are in the UK. Like, our climate is not super hot in the summer and it's not super cold in the winter. I do have a heat mat on his tank just in case I need to use it, but most of the time, because we have central heating and stuff and it doesn't get too warm or too cold here, he does fine at room temperature. Obviously you just need to keep an eye on humidity. Another thing that people don't kind of realise when they bring these guys home necessarily is that they live for a really long time. Just like some other species of reptiles, these guys have really long lifespans. These guys can live for a minimum of about 15 to 20 years. It has been recorded that some have gone on for 25, some, 25 plus years. I'm not aware that that is generally given as their lifespan, but these guys, they live a very long time, and I feel like it's really important to, where possible, make sure that if you're bringing one of these guys home, that you are bringing one home because you want to keep it for its full lifespan. It's kind of really stressful for animals, and it can be tricky for bonding and just kind of getting used to a new environment, etc, etc. When you have these guys, when you have to have these guys rehomed. And so I think it's always really important to try and take in an animal if you can, when you know you're not ever going to have to rehome it. Obviously it's very sad when some of us have to do that because of a change in circumstance, but when you're going to acquire a new animal, I always want to make sure that I'm taking on exactly what I can handle, and only a really unexpected change in circumstance for me would be a reason for me to give that animal up. If I'm bringing something into my home where it's going to be settled and I'm going to look after it, I want it to kind of be there for the remainder of its life. So the fact that these guys are very long living is also something that people might be thinking, oh my god, I didn't realise. It's a very big commitment. Bearded dragons live for a lot less. I will have Fred still when Gary has already passed away. I will have Fred until like my late 30s, early 40s. I got him when I was 22. That is a lot. The next thing that you might need to know about these guys, if you haven't already done your proper research, is that they can do something called caudal autonomy. Now this is where geckos, as many lizards and some monitors do also, is drop their tails. This is often a response to breeding. That's quite common. These guys have been known to do it randomly. I know lots of people who have sent their geckos to bed, they've woken up, they've not heard anything in the night, they've gone to check on their gecko in the morning, sprayed the tank down, and their gecko's missing their tail. So other than breeding and kind of just randomly, which these guys can kind of shock you with, it's generally a response in the wild of escape. So particularly babies will do it if they're very stressed and stuff, but it's also quite common among adults as well. And when this happens, we tend to call our little geckos frog butts, because imagine if he was missing this tail, he would look like he had a frog butt. I think little frog butt geckos are really cute, but obviously Fred still has his tail and this makes me incredibly happy. Who knows if he'll ever drop it. He may do, it may not even be my fault, who knows. But if that is something that's going to panic you or something that would make you feel very worried, then it is definitely something to consider. Many different geckos and lizards can drop their tails, but a lot of them grow them back. These guys are not one of them. The last thing that I think you definitely need to consider before you're buying any kind of exotic animal is their veterinary care. I have never had to take him to the vet. He is a really healthy boy. I weigh him regularly. He's not lost his tail. He sheds brilliantly. He eats, he sleeps, he sheds, he poops. I have not had a single issue with him. I did have one point where I felt like his eyes were a little bit bulgy and that he was possibly dehydrated, which I kind of fixed myself, and I don't know how he would have gotten that way, frankly, because he's misted day and night. But other than that, I have not had any other problems with him, and that was something that I was able to help myself. And if you have any major issues, especially if you have females, they can get egg bound, things like that, it's so important to have a vet, not necessarily even near you, so you must consider that as well, that specializes in exotic creatures. You can't be taking your exotics to someone who normally deals with cats, dogs, etc. They really do require specialist care, especially when we're talking about veterinary care. And when your animal is poorly, you really want to be making sure that you are getting the best care possible. Something also to consider before buying any exotic, doesn't just count for these again, is maybe pet insurance. I don't have it for Fred. I'm actually going to get it for Gary. I feel like I don't have so many animals or such large animals that I wouldn't be able to foot the bill if anything were to go wrong. But I'm aware that if anything were to go wrong with Gary, then it would probably be a damn sight more expensive because of his size, etc., than it would be for Fred. So that is something that I'm going to consider myself. I just think it's responsible to make sure that you can cover costs of possible ill bubbers, because you obviously want them to get well again, and you want to be able to make sure that you can provide the best care possible for them. So if you're willing to find yourself a decent exotic pet, get some insurance, or be financially responsible for these guys, deal with their extremely long lifespan and the fact that unless you're getting them out you will hardly ever see them, then they make excellent pets. On a serious note, these guys are super gentle, they are brilliant, they are very quiet, they don't smell or anything. Their tank size doesn't need to be enormous. You can use fake plants, not live plants. They feed on paste. I have tried live, you can feed live. I would do a mixture of both if you can, but Fred just refuses live, so we just do the paste. They don't require any massive extreme heat requirements, which is really helpful, and they are small, and handability is obviously a really neat one too. So if you think that you can cope with all of that and you've considered the problems that you might not be expecting with these guys, then go ahead and get one. If you weren't aware of some of the things that I mentioned in the video, then do let me know. I always like to get a little bit of feedback on these videos. I did do one like this on my main channel, but I kind of really wanted to redo it. I felt like I sounded a bit bored and I was a bit distracted by this one climbing around. But yeah, these guys are wonderful little creatures, but there are definitely some things that maybe you need to consider that perhaps haven't been made clear to you, because these guys are kind of really encouraged as beginner reptiles. If you want something that's more interactive and there's gonna want to be with you, you don't have to kind of like find in the cage, then something like a bearded dragon or something is probably more appropriate, or maybe a leopard gecko. Anyway, that's it from me and Fred today. I hope that you've enjoyed this video. If you have, please do give it a thumbs up. Go check out my Instagram. I have just created a reptile Instagram, or an animal Instagram. It is _HanZilla, all lowercase, because just HanZilla was gone, annoyingly. So you will find loads of videos and pictures and stories of Fred and Gary over there, and of course you'll see a lot more of me. I hope you've enjoyed this video. If you have, please do give it a thumbs up. Leave me your comments down below. Let me know if you have a crested gecko and what its name is. I would love to hear from you, and we will see you in the next video. Okay, bye!